It is 6 p.m. I will call this meeting of the Grand Forks School Board on Monday, September 9th to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Item B on the agenda is the reading of the school board meeting norms. Jeff?
Number 1, be prepared. Number 2, be on time. Number 3, value and respect each other. Number 4, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation. Number 5, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public. Number 6, speak up when the norms are not being followed. And number 7, advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Number 2, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections? Nope. With that, I would seek a motion for approval. Moved by Bill, second by Jay. We'll take a roll call vote.
Berger is absent. Hodak?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
And Anderson?
Yes.
6, 7 yes, 0 no, and 2 absent.
Motion passes. Item number 3 is public comments. At this time, I have no public comment cards. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak during our public comment section? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 4, Superintendent's recommendations for discussion. 4A is the summer school reports. I will turn it to Catherine for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair, tonight Chair Anderson. Appreciate the introduction. So we have quite the lineup tonight to give us our summer school reports. Summer school has been taken over by a few new faces, and they have done a stellar job in preparing not only the teachers to be successful during the summertime, but also for tonight's report. So we're going to go in the following order, so pay attention over there, everybody. Evan Peterson will go first, reporting on elementary, followed by Mr. Trevor Lennon for the high school, Mr. Terry Bohan from the driver's ed perspective, Ms. Teresa Osgarden from the middle level, Mr. Nick Peterson, the second middle level, because there's a special program at Valley Middle School, which I think you've been apprised of in the past, Ms. Allison Peterson for SPA, and Ms. Kayla Erickson will be batting cleanup. So that's the order that it reads in the agenda. So Peterson, Lennon, Bohan, Osgarden, Peterson, number 2, Allison Peterson then, and Kayla Erickson. Got it? All right, coming up, Mr. Evan Peterson, please.
Like Catherine said, I'm Evan Peterson. I'm a Dean of Students at Valley Middle School, and then just completed my second summer of elementary summer school director. The direction we went this year, Matt and I talked and met as individual group right away, and we needed to condense some smaller schools into some larger schools due to numbers and then construction projects that happened over the summer. So we combined Phoenix, Lewis and Clark, and Viking, and we hosted that at Phoenix Elementary. Lake Agassiz, Winship, and Wilder were at Lake Agassiz Elementary. Century and Ben Franklin were together at Century Elementary, and then Discovery and Twining were together, or Discovery and Kelly were together at Discovery Elementary, and then we had Twining Elementary out at the base. Our enrollment roughly was in the 130s to 170 was our largest school, and that was at Lake Agassiz with Lake Agassiz, Winship, and Wilder. Enrollment is kind of where it was at before COVID really struck. The state still opens it up to everyone that is enrolled in elementary school, and then we do current kindergartners to would be 4th grade. So the incoming 5th graders then went to, or the current 5th graders went to middle school. So we hosted kindergarten through 4th grade with our students. We did 10th month math and reading, and then at the end of the summer school session, we tested our students to see growth, hopefully see growth through our students. I haven't got the results from that, but we have them, and that's something we need to look at to see how much growth our students are making during that 3-week process, our 15-day summer school session that we had. I'd like to give a giant thanks to the people that helped me. I didn't do this alone. It's a whole lot of people. Matt Bakke, we met weekly, or maybe not weekly, monthly, I'd say, for a couple hours out of the time to plan things. And we started a lot earlier this year. We started in December with our planning, so we felt prepared come May that our kids would be ready. Being the second year of myself, it was a lot smoother. Last year felt rushed. This year I felt more prepared with staffing, with transportation, with our testing, and our kids felt better. So that's a positive thing to have, and I hope that we can continue after Christmas break next year to start planning again for next summer. But giant thanks to Matt, Ivana, Amy Barch, Nicole Crafting with the curriculum, Jess Borbert, Kayla Erickson with Encore, Carrie Weipert with special ed, Jake Perper running Power School, made things so smooth transition. Allie Hildebrand, transportation coordinator, set up a very successful bus route that got our students to and from school. It was incredible. She did a great job getting that. And building administrators, their administrative assistants. We had 2 TOSAs, which are an acting admin, while our principals are on their summer leave. We had Ryan Voss and Ashley Vingy. Ashley was at Lake Agassiz, and then Ryan was at Century Elementary, and then myself was at Phoenix, and then bouncing between Phoenix and Discovery where needed. And then lastly, I have a summer school assistant whose name is Nichelle Ratty. She's amazing. She does so much for us in the summer by getting all the SIFs hired, all the paperwork that needs to be done to hire all these teachers and paras. She works late into the evenings, I believe, doing it, so I thank her for her job. And then obviously, lastly, I'd like to thank our teachers. Without them, we can't do summer school. They're putting in an extra 10th month for students to get better at math and reading, which is our ultimate goal. A lot of them switched buildings. It might not have been ideal for them, but they switched buildings. That's not their traditional classroom to make sure that we had a successful program. So I want to thank the teachers again. I'll open up to questions if anyone has questions for me.
Any questions for Evan?
Yeah, just a couple definitions, I guess. Seen the phrase 10-month learning. I assume this summer school is the 10th month of the academics those kids get in a year.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are the general reasons students attend the summer school?
Good question. It's another opportunity to continue their skills that they're learning. It's nothing that's new to them. They're not learning anything new in 2nd grade or 3rd grade. It's just a continued part of the educational curriculum that they offer to renew things and keep going. That is, they may be lacking or they may excel in and just continue to that.
Is it choice or compulsion?
Yes, it's choice.
Okay.
It's parents' choice.
Thank you.
There can be recommendations from teachers, their classroom teachers or homeroom teachers, but it all comes down to the parents and their decision. Sometimes we battle with summer athletics, whether it be soccer or softball or baseball. We let them know we still want them to come. If they miss a couple days here or there, we still obviously want them coming to 10th month summer school. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so you're aware, Mr. Clevin, the Department of Instruction a couple of years ago changed the summer school requirements so that every student has an opportunity to attend. Before, we used to target specific students according to student achievement data, but now it's open to absolutely everybody. So it's not a bad move, but it also makes planning a little more challenging in the sense that you have to be more all-encompassing than, again, looking at targeted groups.
Other questions? Amber?
I have 2. My first question is, Do you find that you're still kind of trying to get out, or there is a stigma that people are like, summer school's only for like remediation instead of this, like, it's good to be proactive? Like,
Yeah.
where are parents at?
I didn't feel that way visiting with parents at pickup while we were out waiting, but other than that, I didn't feel that or didn't have much interaction. Our Melissa Baki and her communications team sent all the information out, and then the classroom teachers and building principals and building assistants pushed out information for people that wanted to sign up. Some of our schools, Travis Thorvaldson at Winship, they do a lot of sign up for their students that say, hey, we really want you to do this, and they help out a lot with the building admin, do that as well too, but yeah.
I will say, as a parent, I received the information in multiple ways. I think, you know, it didn't come across as like remedial either.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that's maybe in the back of some people's mind as a barrier to signing up.
It could be, yeah, I guess I'm not positive on that. Yeah.
And then, can you remind the board where the funds come from for elementary summer school?
Yeah, so within the funding formula, there's a mechanism in which summer school is funded through the funding formula. And so that's based on the enrollment, the ADMs are then associated with the funding of that summer school program.
Okay.
And so, again, similar to what Ms. Glatch referenced, when they opened it up to all students and not just targeted support, it allowed for additional funds to also come in as a result of that.
And is it on-time enrollment numbers?
No, it is actually afterwards.
Okay.
But it does, in September, when we submit our September 15th enrollment report, that will then update our numbers accordingly.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Peterson? If none, thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Trevor Lennon. I am a teacher, coach, and advisor at Central High School. And this past summer, I spent a month and a half at Red River High School serving as the high school summer school director. So like I said, we started from Monday, June 3rd, and ran until July 10th, going from 7:45 a.m. to 12:25 a.m. or p.m. Full credit classes went through that whole time, taking a 10-minute break in between. If you were taking a half credit course, that would run from 7:45 to 9:55, then a little break, and then going from 10:15 to 12:25. Overall, there were, and I had a typo on the report that was sent to you, 726 seats enrolled to start summer school session. Compared to 730, 606, and 845 in the previous 3 years. Students can take more than one class, so that kind of changes the numbers as well there. 88 students were dropped because they did not adhere to the attendance policy, compared to 72, 25, and 84. And then we had a little snafu with Power School, so I don't believe that 303 and a half credits were issued. I believe it's more than that, probably closer to that 600 range like we had the previous year. So I'm working with Jake Perper to resolve that issue. So with the Department of Public Instruction, you get an $830 stipend per half credit issued. So with the 303 there, we should have made around $251,000. So hopefully with that increase in credits earned, it should be higher than that. And then no student in summer school that passed or that made it to the completion failed a course. So that was something great to see. We also coordinated with a credit recovery option for any Central or Red River student who failed a spring semester class with a percentage grade between 55 to 63%. So what students would do is they would come into Central or to Red River High School and they would work to through Edmentum to gain their credit back. And they would do 1 week's worth of work, which would help bring their grade from that low or that high F into a D so that they could earn that credit and not have to retake the whole class. So Central had 38 half credits recovered, and Red River had 40. So special thanks to Naomi Welsh at the Mentor Center for helping that out. And then a couple other thanks that I would like to give out. Mike Wilbur, he was a tremendous help in setting up Power School. He had done summer school the past 4 or 5 years. So me and him met probably about a week after I was hired back in April to get the summer school rolling. And he was my point of contact for pretty much every question, which I probably gave him a call once a week once summer school got going. So big thanks to Mike, to the Red River custodial staff. They were great to work with. They did a great job of keeping the hallways clean while they were also working to get the building ready for this upcoming school year. The office staff at Red River, they were fantastic to work with. And then all the teachers and paras that I worked with this past summer did a phenomenal job, and they just want to recognize them for all the hard work that they did June and beginning of July. So with all that being said, if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
Any difficulties in getting staff this year, whether it be teachers or support staff, to sign up to work?
It wasn't too difficult, no. A lot of the staff were returning summer school staff, so it was a pretty easy phone call where they had applied, and we knew they were interested, so we gave them a call and they came back. We did have a little bit of trouble finding a speech teacher. Tara Ulrich stepped up into that position and got a provisional license to teach that class for the summer, and did a fantastic job teaching it.
Other questions? Jay?
How come everybody took the SS class? It was like 42% of the credits.
So that's just social studies. So it can range anything from U.S. history to global education to economics and government. So that's the social studies. It can range from anything between that. Those are also required classes. So a student might take that to try and free up some space in their schedule during the school year.
Thanks.
Do you track those that didn't attend as to why they didn't?
The responses that I got from those students were that they didn't remember signing up. They just decided they didn't want to attend anymore, or many other various reasons from sleeping in to forgetting to come to school. So. And they just timed out. So.
I was curious about the 7:45 a.m. because that's very early in the summer. Mm-hmm. Have you talked about possibly flipping that and making like an afternoon session, or?
From what I hear from teachers and staff is to not change that. Okay.
So maybe we wouldn't have people
teachers
employed
and staff like
to
have
teach.
their, yep, they like to have their afternoons off. So.
Okay. Sounds good.
Further questions? Anyone? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
That's better. Terry Bohan, Principal, Community High School, Driver's Ed Director. For our 6 weeks of Driver's Ed this summer, we had 279 students register and complete Driver's Ed. Our 16 instructors were instrumental in getting them through our 3-tiered program, which includes the classroom, the behind the wheel, and simulated driving experiences. Once again, I want to remind the board, vehicles our students are driving in, excellent partnership with Rydell. Very grateful again this year for their support of our Driver's Ed program. A couple of additional details. We are at 16 instructors this summer, which is a good number. Thankfully, 3 new instructors are included in that bunch. I think we can operate a good summer program with 16 to 18 instructors. when we have 18, we're allowed to maybe increase our enrollment up to 300 students. 3 of our staff this year are brand new, expecting 1 more next year. I think we have a good operation getting getting teachers endorsed to be driver's ed instructors. They, as a group, are working on some additional driver's ed certifications and continuing ed plans with UND. That's a new thing for our program this year, which we're grateful for. That might help maintain some certifications and endorsements that sometimes can lag from year to year, depending on a person's teaching license. Our expenses have increased in the last 2 years, in particular around the area of staff pay. And as a result, for the future, it's my recommendation that the board consider increasing our fee for behind the wheel. We have been charging $300 for the past 2 summers. Suggestion would be to increase that in 2025 to $350. It is getting to be expensive to host driver's ed. Our $350 fee would be lower than private operations, but still allow us to meet budget requirements. So with that, I would entertain any questions you might have related to driver's ed.
Jeff?
With that $300 or $350 fee in 2025, that's getting up there a bit. Is there options for people that don't have that kind of funds to take driver's training?
Every year we are working with usually counselors, sometimes social workers at individual schools to offset that. It happens in a few different programs, and there is not a student that's turned away.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Bohan? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Teresa Oskarn. I was the middle school summer school coordinator for this year. I'll be presenting information on South and Schrader Middle School tonight. Valley Summer Rise program will be presented by Nick Peterson. Twining Middle School did not have enough interest to host a middle school summer school program this year, but we'll try again next year. I was hired in April to start the summer school planning process. Having the summer school in June had been a change. Since the summer of 2020, middle school summer school had always been in August. With the quick turnaround, the idea was to group students by grade and not by school, because we didn't know our numbers, what they would be. We hosted our traditional ELA math for incoming 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Our multilingual program was for our level 1s and 2s, which was due to the request from last year, but also because of the large growth of our ML students during the 23-24 school year. We also hosted a STEM science group this year to try something new. To use our facilities, we looked at numbers. ELA and math was going to be originally at Schrader, while our ML and STEM program would be at South. After looking at registration, majority of our 7th graders and 8th graders were South students. So I did call the Schrader families and asked them if they wanted to move over, and they all approved. So therefore, Schrader hosted our incoming 6th graders, and South had our 7th and 8th graders. Plus, this also helped with our level 3 and 4 ML students who wanted to do summer school programming, so they were still bused to South. You have the report in your summer school packet, in your school board packet, so I'm not going to go through everything word for word, but I do want to bring up some points for you. South and Schrader Summer School was a 3-week program. We had 87 registered students, with starting at 80 students coming the first day. We had 67 students that had an overall 70% attendance rate. We used Melissa Bakke to send out Blackboard messages. I also emailed principals and asked for schools to send out information in their newsletter as well this spring. For next summer, I want to start planning earlier so we can get information out to our parents, because they have parent-teacher conferences in February. During those 3 weeks of summer school, I bounced back and forth to check on both facilities to make sure that our teachers were supported. The feedback from my teachers was that the 3 weeks ran very smoothly. When it comes to curriculum and data, we relied on Envision's math curriculum and Wit and Wisdom strategies. Teachers were able to complete a STAR testing to help track our students from their spring scores in May to their June test scores. The 35 ELA students tested resulted in 23 students increasing their scores from May, which was a 66% of our students increased. 34 math students tested and 17 increased their scores, which resulted in 50% of our students increasing. Looking at the data, those that did not increase their score did not have a significant decrease either. So we call that as a win. Our ML teachers continued with their student needs from the school year since all the students were, and our staff were all South Spartans. The teachers preferred having the lower levels to help continue their learning into the summer months, so we feel that the level 1s and 2s should continue on for next summer school programming. One change for next year would be to not continue the STEM science group for multiple reasons. Being planned as a new idea in April, there wasn't enough time to prepare a curriculum for the summer school. We received materials and ideas from our instructional coach, Carla Haben. The setup would have been to repeat the students if they want to continue, since it was open for 6th through 8th graders. A teacher would have to create a 3-year cycle of curriculum to help make sure that the STEM program would be engaging and effective. At this time, though, we do not have a science teacher that would be willing to take on this challenge. Grand Forks has many opportunities for our students, which is amazing to see. Some of our students are originally registered for summer school, ended up going to the summer spa program because the hours are the same time that we have our hours offered. There are multiple VEX robotics camps for middle school and elementary students as well hosted at South Middle School. The Grand Forks Police Department also had their Impact Academy, in which some of our students decided to go there full time. My teachers felt that the numbers in attendance were actually really effective this year. Moving forward for the summer school programming, we already have a scheduled meeting with Catherine Glatch in January to start planning for next summer. I want to thank the school board members for listening to my report this time. I will take any questions you may have for me.
Any questions from board members? Jay?
So the recommendation is to not try the STEM camp.
The STEM camp would have to take many hours to start planning it. There is some opportunities we could do, since the middle school curriculum for science is like physical science for 6th grade, life science for 7th grade, earth science for 8th grade. We can do some kind of rotation. But as of right now, my science teacher that did this, she says she's not coming back next year because she's having a baby. So she's like, needs to do the summertime for her family. Yeah.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Peterson. I'm from Valley, and the last couple of years I've been the RISE teacher there. You might remember me from enthusiastically talking about the RISE program last summer, and somebody deigned to let me take more control of that, so here we are. So just to talk first about what the RISE program is and what differentiates that from other middle school programs. This is something we've done at Valley. This is the 2nd year. Originally, we focused really heavily on incoming 6th graders. This year, we expanded that to 6th and 7th graders. But this is marketed and really billed and sold to families, and we spread that message through our elementary schools, and we talk about it when they come over for 5th grade orientation. But really, RISE is intended to advance students. It's not remedial in any way. I did have one family who called me, and I started that pitch about this being for advancement and being prepared for the next grade, and she said, "That's great, but does he get remedial too?" And I said, "Of course, we accommodate everything." And in fact, we did. We have students of all types of needs, and as I go through this presentation, I think it will speak to that. So this comes from our partnership with Lavinia. Lavinia has done a lot of different things for Valley as far like through our CSI. It's in-person coaching last year, and that's another differentiation from last year to this year. We did have someone that came and did in-person trainings with us We did not do that this year, mostly due to the fact that most of our staff from last year that went through that intensive training stayed and did that a second time. So I think that turned out to be okay for us. But what they do provide is, as I'll show on the next slide, a whole week of intensive training, as well as we build into our schedule where math teachers and English teachers every single week of RISE meet with a cohort and have synchronous training where they talk about what's happened this week and where their kids are at and are responsive to testing data. So planning, I work together with Teresa. Planning entails outreach to parents, elementary teachers, partnering with Encore for our supplies, assessing student needs and then hiring appropriately. And then the reason we start a week after other middle schools is because that week of June 3rd through the 7th was teacher training. And again, thank you to Teresa for helping with all our hiring paperwork. So our staff, returning was Robert Tibbetts, Ryan Marshall, Andrea Harchie, all did fantastic. I was the other ELA teacher, so Casey Rogney was our new step in here. And then we were assisted by numerous Valley and South teachers and paras, all working as paraprofessionals. And again, just taking a minute to thank our kitchen staff and our custodial crew, our office staff, buildings and grounds, and Teresa, again, I didn't realize how many times I shouted you out in this, but. So this is a look at our teacher training week, because I think this is one thing that really sets it apart. Our teachers go through rigorous hours of instruction. The training is really good. This year was a new thing, not that we would know with this being only our second year, but starting this year, Lavinia Programming actually differentiated all their training from first-year teachers to returning teachers. So all of our returning teachers said that was a huge boon. They said that they really, it clicked for them after doing it and getting that training the second time around where you have all the context. And so that was kind of the biggest review of the training is second-year teachers really thought that was a useful experience. This is what our typical day would look like. We serve breakfast and lunch every day, and then students are in kind of tight blocks of ELA and math every single day, followed by a closing activity that I'll talk more about, and that can vary day to day, but it's a focus on teamwork, building skills, and then for those incoming sixth graders, that's the time where we go over all the things that help them be comfortable, successful day one. I'm too far removed to have like an intrinsic fear of combination locks, so I try and be understanding, but that seems to be like the most gung-ho thing for every sixth grader that came to RISE was, when are you going to show us those locks? Like, we need to figure that out. Content, pairing along with curriculum was huge. As a teacher last year, I loved reading the night diary for kids. Anecdotally, we had kids that told us, like, this is the best book I've ever read. So every ELA block is 40 minutes of reading the night diary, or for our older kids this year, The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. It's very similar to Wit and Wisdom, as far as my experience would allow, a focus on genre frames, transferable skills. What do we want kids to like realize, think about? What's their action steps when they see new text, and recognizing what that would be. And then also our math block, and I wish I had taken a picture of some of our classrooms by the end, because they were covered in boards like this. Every day students like approach a new task and it builds on previous tasks. So there's that uncomfortability in good learning. And I got to see that when students would be able to solve a problem the way they knew how, but that wasn't exactly the point. Like today, we're going to look at the same problem, but investigate how we can solve that a different way. And then seeing that click with kids, that like, oh, when I'm confronted with this, I have multiple strategies to try from, was really big. Closure activities, like I said, that might range from Intro to Valley, where it's lock practice, it's tours around the building, it's getting to know Valley, and really sell it as a place where we work hard and good things happen. And I guess this would be one of our kind of community builders as we're meeting our students. Generously, the library let us access their materials, so carefully and in an organized fashion, we let students borrow books from the library just to foster that reading. And I've seen students that are still reading the same series that they started over the summer, which is perfect. Here you'd have some of the skill building activities we would do during closure, Foursquare, and then on the right, which I'll talk more about in a second here, that's one of our enrichment activities and kind of community partnerships. For the second year in a row, House of Punjab has sponsored a meal on one of the last days for our kids because the night diary, the main character talks a lot and writes a lot about how she, like the way she provides for her family is through cooking. And so all of our students write them letters during closure time, expressing their desire and what that connection is to try some of the dishes named in the book. And for the second year in a row, they very happily provided those things for the kids to try, which is a cool experience. Communication, coordination, and attendance. Being new to this role, I tried to manage a lot of that myself. With an emphasis to parents that I know summer is busy, and Rise starting 1 week after other summer schools and then running 2 weeks longer anyway, took us all the way past July 4th. So it's difficult for families, so we tried to be very understanding and accommodating. We had families that picked up books before week-long vacations so their kids could stay on pace. I really can't say enough good things about all the families and all the kids that would show up day after day. And again, we were able to come up with a new capstone now that we had older kids reading a different book. If last year was the night diary during our first year, this year we were able to take our 7th and 8th grade students to LM Wind Power because they read The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. And so they said that was a great experience. They all came back with little LM fans to plug into their phones. It was cute. Academic data, if you flip past the testimonial in front of you, it didn't look as good on the big screen, but I do have a couple things I wanted to highlight. So our first there is our ELA cohort, 7th grade. My copy's black and white, but obviously for A, B, C, D, the bar on the left would be their pre-test, and the bar on the right is their post-test. There's 3 further down the alphabet where we weren't able to get either that student's pre-test or post-test, but I think it should be clear that it's pretty excellent data. I mean, there's students that jump from 25% on the first test to almost 80 on the second, and that's not an anomaly. So we're very, very proud of our teachers, and we're very proud of the work our students put in to achieve those kinds of successes. On the back of there, just trying to highlight data in a different way, we have 6th grade ELA growth by reading standards, and on the back of that would be the cheat sheet for what those standards are. Lavinia gives us curriculum that's tailored to our North Dakota standards, transferable skills. You can see as a cohort of 6th grade kids, which was our biggest group, in some areas we have maybe 26, 27% growth from start to finish. Our lowest is 15, but like universally, as a group, they tested higher in every cohort there, or every area. And then there's one more. In math, standards covered, we have 1 blemish. There's 1 area out of 4 there, NFB3, where we went down, but in the other 3, again, we have modest, if not pretty positive gains. Attendance data, so we had 61 students registered before we kicked off. 16 students attended for 0 to 2 days, so I kind of take them out of that data set. Reasons for those, 2 different families told me that, well, last year we had the Encore program after Rise, so students would eat lunch and then Encore is there on site. We didn't have the numbers to justify Encore this year. Hopefully we will in the future, because that was 2 families that dropped, and that was their rationale. One was a hockey camp. But regardless, 35 is kind of that was kind of the end of season amount. So once activities have hit, once spas hit, 35 plus students were kind of our attendance for the last 2 or 3 weeks. 10 students attended regularly but completed 5 or more days with materials. So yeah, we had a spa student who wasn't with us for the first 2 weeks and then showed up on the next day and was like on pace, had read the book every day, had called their math teacher once and was ready to go. So I take that as a mark of determination rather than like inconspicuous absence. And then finally, measuring success. I mean, I looked at academics. I'd like to think that's a really positive result for us, but with our lens from last year on like this being a welcoming place and our emphasis on 6th graders coming in, we had 46 students who are going to jump into their next year more prepared than they ended the last one. We have 28 new 6th graders that walked in and could open their locker and could show their friend, like, you need to get to Miss Rogney's room, let me take you there. We served almost 1,500 meals to kids. We had 21 kids who tried Indian cuisine for the first time. I don't know the number of cowards that we don't have that didn't try it, but and then just countless relationships formed. I still see a lot of those smiling faces every day. They're the kids that do walk a little taller. They come in with like a sense of ownership and community that is hard to measure. Challenges. I think most challenges that I had to face this last year can be ironed out. We lost Power School access when the other middle schools ended. Again, easy to fix for next year. Same with special ed busing. We didn't have a kid miss a single day, but weren't aware ahead of time that was ending as well. Again, easy to iron out. I don't know who I have to convince, but if we can get the gym resurfacing moved around, we only had 2 weeks at the beginning of our 5 weeks where we had gym access, and then it was just our turn. So with no fields, if that can be moved around, that would be ideal. And we're looking into scheduling that teacher training. Like, I highlighted that because it's so important, and I think it is the biggest piece of why we did this so well. But if there's a way for us to do asynchronous training that teachers can do before we wrap up our school year, just to move those 4 or 5 days ahead of July 4th, I think that would be a big thing for attendance for us. And also with our initial purchase, we had supplies for coming into 6th, coming into 7th, but if we continue to grow, that's a challenge for us too, is to find the funds to purchase materials for 8th grade. Looking forward, goal is to continue to grow our numbers. In the transition where I picked up taking over for this, we did not have time to do our Intro to 6th night where we invited family members into Valley, and I think it was end of April. Would definitely like that to happen again this year. Like I said, asynchronous training options so that our teachers can get that training, but we can start when the other summer schools start. And then continue to use curriculum to the highest standards. I probably didn't say enough about how important it is to me. I love the RISE curriculum. I said that a lot as a teacher last year. So maintaining those standards, retaining the staff that has done it so well, and then continuing to build on those community partnerships would be big goals for us. Unfortunately, Ms. Harchie had a child illness come up today. She was going to speak a few words. I don't know what power the school board has to like compel testimony, but I told her family first, you don't have to come, but you know, if you need to hear from her, let her know. But we do have Nicole and Adrian. Adrian is one of our first, she's a 2-time RISE alum, and they're going to say a little bit as well.
Hi, I attended RISE going into 6th grade and going into 7th grade, and I think it really helped me get used to Valley, especially going into 6th grade, because I didn't know my way around, and I've only ever been there for my older sister's open houses and stuff. Also, I wasn't the best reader or writer before the RISE program, and I think it really helped me improve. Also, I think it was just really fun getting to hang out with my friends every day, and yeah, and learn a lot too.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Adrian. Hi, my name is Nicole Durain. Before I start my comments, I just wanted to thank you for your support of the RISE program, but summer school programs in general. Summer school programming through GFPS is a big part of my family's summer experience. I had a child in high school, summer school, and driver's ed. So, and of course the RISE program. So it means a lot to me. So, and my family. But I'm here to speak on behalf of the RISE program. And I just wanted to reiterate that the RISE program is a meaningful and impactful program, and it's forward-thinking, and we're so grateful to have the opportunity to be a part of it. The RISE program has provided Adrian and her peers with guided exploration of math and ELA, English Language Arts, of course, instruction over those critical summer months. And that really helps with preventing summer slide and encouraging academic growth over the summer months. I've also seen that the RISE program supports children's academic, social, and emotional growth in addition to their work at the regular school year. In terms of academic growth, I've seen, again, that prevention of summer slide and also really helping with school readiness. And as Adrian has shared, really encouraging her to bolster some of her subject area readiness. With regard to social development, the chance to have the children to be in a supportive and safe and structured environment in summer is a really big deal for families and for the children. And in terms of emotional growth, as you are aware, of course, the transition from one grade to another in middle school is a really important time for the children. And so having that, again, that guided growth, that guided exploration, and support in that transition has really been critical for Adrian. And lastly, as a parent, I wanted to thank Mr. Peterson and his staff for the great work that he did. I felt like I was part of a learning community because Mr. Peterson did an outstanding job communicating with the families. And I felt like that was a really important part of the success of the program. So again, I just wanted to say sincerely, thank you very much for your support. And I hope that the program can continue to grow and continue to include children from 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, kiddo. Questions I can answer for you?
Any questions from board members? Jay?
Is this Valley Middle School students only, or are you just all students but happen to use Valley?
My interpretation was that we have open enrollment at summer school. So I could be wrong, but if a parent had called, I would have said show up.
Yeah, so the difference between Valley's program is that it's specifically targeted for their comprehensive school improvement efforts. And so that's part of the ongoing efforts to improve language arts and math curricula. And so through the title funding, they have the ability to invest in that additional training, the Lavinia programming and everything. So what Ms. Peterson said is true, but it really is specifically targeting our Valley Middle School students.
Thank you. You answered my other question about funding. Thank you.
Well, I had a question about funding too, so Catherine or Nick. I know the current funding, but how about in the future? We talk about programs that are good, but eventually sometimes the funding runs out with these programs. So have we thought about how long is the funding for, and then have we thought about beyond that?
I can say a little. I don't sit at those tables, but what I can tell you about changes that we've made year to year already, first to second, it was a significant cost-saving measure for us not to have the Lavinia person fly here and spend weeks coaching us in person. and I don't feel like our quality and competency has suffered. So that was one part. The curriculum's really rigorous, and so that first year teachers were given another hour of prep. This year we had the same parity, same prep as teachers at every other level of summer school. So those are two steps we've taken to try and shrink that footprint, but I can't speak too much about the rest of it.
So to answer your question to that degree, CSI dollars do currently pay for a majority of the funding. If or when that runs out, then we would need to look at how can we incorporate within the funding formula in order to meet the needs of that. Ideally, that would end up having to maybe revamp it a little bit to the degree that we're looking remedial with the math and the ELA, not to the degree where it's completely all remedial, but it would need to have a component of that. And then we need to meet the hours that are required for meeting the ELA and math component, and then we'd be able to tailor it towards that version of it.
Just a quick follow-up comment question about that, kind of back to Jay. So if and when we get to that point, which we will eventually, then I think from an equity standpoint, the way we have to look at, do we open it up to other middle schools that need remediation as well?
And to Catherine's point, we really haven't gotten to that point quite yet, but then at that point, we'll examine the next steps from there.
Other questions? If none, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all.
Good evening, members of the School Board and District Administration. My name is Allison Peterson. I am the Director of the Summer Performing Arts Program. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak about our summer seasons. SPA 2024 was our 37th season, and it was an overall success. We have an excellent team that can accomplish great things in just a few short weeks, and I'm going to share a few highlights from that season. We had a record enrollment this year of 1,069 students, with an additional 84 students participating in band and orchestra lessons and a summer string camp. Total enrollment was 1,153. High school SPA students can receive fine arts elective credits for SPA participation. This year, 160.25 total credits were submitted for Grand Forks Public School students in voice classes, advanced theater arts, and vocal music chorus. All in all, 802 hours of programming were offered this summer program-wide. 74 families or 110 students requested financial assistance. We were able to grant partial or full scholarships to all of those participants. We doubled the number of pre-K SPA offerings. This seems to be the sweet spot for offerings. We offered 16 classes. Last year we did 8. Most of the classes filled quickly and the rest kind of trickled in and filled in, so we think that this is the sweet spot for the pre-K program. We continued our partnership with the ML Summer School. We sent them guest artists. They created a play and did some music work and some chalk art, and they performed at World Refugee Day at Town Square. These artists are completely grant funded. Our 2 main stage high school productions were Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat at Central High School and Grease at Red River High School. All 8 public performances were full or sold out, and all in all, there were over 14,000 patrons that saw SPA students perform this summer. All in all, we had a successful summer. We are grateful for the continued support we receive from the district and the community. We are grateful for all of our registrants, volunteers, staff, patrons, and donors. I would be happy to entertain any questions about this summer. Thank you.
Any questions from board members? Amber?
Can you talk about the budget and plans for next year? How's staffing going? Registration costs, things like that?
Sure. So this year we increased our registration fees across the board, either $5 to $15 per program. And some of those programs had been stagnant in their registration costs for many, many years. And so we felt that the increase was necessary and justified. With the sold out shows, our gate sales went higher, the ticket sales were higher this year, and we're also going to look into advertising and fundraising in that regard for next year. We already have some people that have shown interest on buying like an advertisement in our program and that type of thing. I'm continuing our grant writing, and I keep on trying to find new options, more options that fit SPA and fit the school district aspect rather than 501c3 type aspect. It's hard when staffing is the biggest part of our budget, and with the staff increase in pay, that really took a toll on us. But we're down to about as many staff as we can have. I think in 2019 we had 78 staff. Last year we had under 50. And for 1,100 kids, we're about as low as we can go. And so we have to find that sweet spot of how we're going to make it work. And I'm trying my best to do that.
Do we get to get a sneak peek for next year's shows yet?
No, not yet. We haven't even thought about that. We're thinking about the school year shows right now.
Thank you.
Other questions? Jay?
Not a question, but a comment. SPA is one of the things that makes Grand Forks Grand Forks. So the budget impact, it is what it is, and I'm sure we'll see the final numbers, but personal observation, it's worth every penny. So thank you for all the work.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
Anything further? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I always have to follow her. No. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here. I'll be quick so you guys can get on with the rest of your meeting. We once again offered summer encore during summer school so that the kids could attend summer school from 8 to noon. We would provide a childcare option from 12 to 5:30. Kids didn't have to attend summer school to come to us, but a lot of them did. We ran Monday through Friday from 12 to 5:30. 12 to 12:30 was lunch that Wendy Mankey provided, open to anybody in the public. And then we just did activities from there. We hosted in all of the same schools that elementary had summer school. We had STEM activities. We partnered with Gateway to Science out of Bismarck, where the kids learned how to be rocket engineers, spacesuit designers, and robotic engineers. We did various art projects. NDSU did a cooking class. With our Phoenix students, they learned how to use blenders and knife skills, and all went home with a kitchen set if they participated, as well as the Little Red Reading Bus came to visit each site 3 different times. We did various sports, did lots of park trips, went outside as much as we could, and as long as the weather allowed. And if we can figure out the gym waxing situation with Peterson, I'm also on board. That was our enrollment. I clearly screwed up our century numbers. Our enrollment was 42, not 30. But our numbers looked really good. We look forward to planning ahead of the game this year so that it's already in our budget so that we have higher numbers. We feel like if registration doesn't come out as late as it did. Our decision was made kind of not as quick as it has been. But it helped, we feel like our summer school kids attend due to having this option. Our staffing was great, and all in all, that was a great program that we had. And then through, if you're familiar with our Goshen grant that we had for 3 years, obviously last year was the last year that our STEM camp program ended with Goshen. Through extra ESSER dollars that DPI found, we submitted a grant application and were awarded to run our own STEM camp this year. So in large part, thanks to South Middle School, I operated a program that was identical to what we've done with Goshen. We ran it for 1 week for incoming 3rd through 8th. We did some really fun things. Obviously, this grant dollars were a little more strict. We couldn't provide meals, but parents had no problem sending a lunch every day. And then we couldn't do a field trip, but Roger Quinn out at Twining wrote a grant to the North Dakota Parks. And so they paid for us to bus the kids out to Turtle River and their entry fee. And so that was awesome. So these were the kids kind of going through the water. We had waiters. It was awesome. So that was our breakdown for how many participants we had. We had a waiting list of about the same number. We would like to find the money to do this again. This is a really fun project. the kids during those 4 days did rockets and robots, electrical circuits, windmills and energy, built cars to see if their egg would crash or not. The 5th and the 8th graders went to Turtle River. We had stream tables and topography lessons, and the grossest of all that Andrew Quinn and Tim Gregoire led was frog and worm dissection for the 6th through 8th graders. So our summer STEM camp wouldn't have been successful at all without Andrew Quinn, Timothy Gregoire, Grant Larson, Amanda Denault, Dave Vonish, and all the Encore staff that helped us. It was a really fun 4 days that we would love to continue, and those were our frogs. Any questions?
Questions from board members? Seeing none, thank you very much. Catherine, yes.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying as we're transitioning to the next activity, I just want to thank all the people who presented tonight. The testimony that came from the family, I think, is perfect. Our summer school programming not only helps improve skills, ancillary skills, social emotional skills, avoid backslide, but it also clearly provides all kinds of enriching activities, and that's just a tribute to the staff. They have to work really hard. You know, not every kid wants to be in school in the summer. Let's be honest about that, but when they get there, they are welcomed, they are seen, they are heard, they are engaged, they're fed, they're challenged. It's really a beautiful program, and ranging from the arts to mathematics and beyond, it's just phenomenal what they offer. And I think that goes, both the people that are here in the room tonight and all the teachers and paras who support that programming, the thanks is huge from these offices. So thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Item 4B is an update on the new Twining School at the Grand Forks Air Force Base District 140. I'm turning it over to Brandon.
Yes, thank you, members of the board. Just make a quick introduction here. For this item, this is a project of District 140, which, as you know, is a very close relationship with District 1. And in planning for the new Nathan Twining School building, they've just crossed schematic design, which is a threshold in architecture speak that's exciting. And so we wanted to provide an update here to this group. To do that today, we're joined by Janelle Regenball with Insight to Solutions and Andrew Budke with JLG Architects, and we'll take it in that order.
Great, thank you, Brandon. We are wanting to kind of start out today with giving you a little recap of just where this all began and how it started, because we know we certainly have some new school board members, and it's been quite some time since District 1 has heard an update specifically about this grant process and the building of the school. The funding source is a bit of an alphabet soup, and of course that's very fitting since we're also at Air Force Base School and when you think about federal government. But the funds that are needed to build this school, 80% of which would come from the Office of Local Defense and Community Cooperation, often referenced as OLDCC, if you see that in various documents, and the actual grant program that the funds would come from is referenced as PSMI, Public Schools on Military Installations Program. And if you think about it in terms of a grant, oftentimes you go to the competitive nature of that process. And I'm happy to tell you that this is not a competitive process. We are a part of this process because dating back to 2011 and 2018, the DODA did a facility condition assessment report on all military schools across the country. And Twining School ranked number 70 as far as the priority list has gone. And so you could consider it our number is up. And so that's the fortunate news, is that we are able to now be taken into consideration, and we're engaged in the process that it takes to get us from that four-part process you see on the screen. Really, we start with a design proposal, we go to a design grant, build proposal, and then a build grant. And we now are in our number 3 step there, so that's good news. We have been engaged in this process for more than a year. You first heard about this project last summer when really things got kicked off. And then I believe you had a formal presentation by Tanya Schleicher, who is a contracted grant writer who came before you last fall and talked a bit about that design proposal when that was first sent in. So you can see the various eligible costs, which is, I think, somewhat unheard of when you look at what will be covered by this funding source. So it is a unique opportunity and one that certainly is greatly appreciated because it will facilitate the opportunity for our Air Force-based families to have the type of school that they deserve and to enhance the quality of life for all our installation members. This project is probably unlike any in many ways because the collaborating partners are very vast. And so you'll see before you a list of the key stakeholders. We have the federal stakeholders, the OLDCC folks, and specifically the PSMI program. And so the Grand Forks Public School District works closely hand in hand with those entities. District 140, our Air Force Base School District, is really the grantee, the primary lead, if you want to look at it that way, in this process, and is working closely with those federal funding partners. And certainly I'm here tonight and Andrew's here tonight because District 1 has a unique relationship, with the Grand Forks Air Force Base District school, and we want to keep you apprised as well. The U.S. Air Force, specifically our Grand Forks Air Force Base, provides the building land, and it's an out-lease agreement with the Army Corps. So that's also a part of this unique situation. We work very closely with the Civil Engineering Squadron at the Air Force Base around all the various requirements that go into the consideration of a new building being placed on their land. First and foremost of that is NEPA requirements and things like environmental assessments and making sure we meet all the various things needed for safety and health and well-being and the cultural aspects a new building would pose. Our military families are also represented. Of course, they're represented on the school board, but we've also had student involvement from military families. And the Grand Sky community is also involved in our project. So you'll see that on the right side there of the screen that we have an organizational structure in place to really support this process. And I'm happy to say that District 1 has had representation as well in that process. And thank you to Amber Flynn, who really served on our steering committee for its first year. We're now having, Mr. Berger will join in at our next steering committee meeting. Michelle Shepard, of course, from District 140 has been instrumental and just a champion in every way for this project and speaks so well on behalf of the school district. Our principal, Chad Katurka from Twining, again, just so involved in every step of this process. But we've also had a number of community members, and I think that's probably what's unique if you look at that work group listing. And those folks, I know Mr. Palmasino has been very gracious to step forward, and he's been serving on our funding and budget work group and has been active, involved in those meetings. We also have a representative from District 140 on that group as well. But that group is comprised of folks from Air Force Base leadership, community leaders, key local legislators, and also representative from Grand Sky. And so, again, a very unique type of situation that's needed in order to bring this project home. I think as I look at this, I'd also want to thank, the future standpoint of the involvement from this district as well as District 140 is this is a long project, and Andrew's going to share a timeline in a few minutes that kind of shows you what it's going to take to bring this project to fruition. And considering we are already been engaged now almost 15 months, there's still 27 plus months to go. I have to look at you to just even think about that. So it is something you're going to be hearing about in the future as well, but tonight our goal was to bring you up to date. So here are some upcoming key processes that are just around the corner. This is a big week for the project. We are taking our step 3, which is getting ready to hit send later this week on the proposal related to the build, okay? We have the design phase, and in just a moment, Andrew's going to talk about all the fun stuff. He has all the fun slides. That's how it always is when we're together. And so, my job is just to tell you that there's a big process going on behind the scenes that's super important, because as much as this isn't a competitive grant, we have to meet a number of criteria. We have to check a lot of boxes. We have to do a lot of due diligence to get the 80% of the federal funds for this building. And then District 140 will be stepping up with the 20% of the match funds. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Andrew to talk about the fun stuff, but I will definitely stand up here and be ready to answer any of your questions too.
Thanks, Janelle. So again, my name is Andrew Budke. I'm with JLG Architects. So the slides that I've got to show you tonight, these are taken directly from about 2 weeks ago, I guess it was, when we were out at the Air Force Base and speaking with the District 140 board. So these are some of the topics that we went over. As was mentioned, we're at the conclusion of our schematic design phase. It is very cool. I appreciate that. So this is a major milestone, and it means that we are, locking in certain aspects of the design and also certain parts of the project budget. So just to kind of give you a real quick overview, this is an aerial photo from out at the Air Force Base. Of course, the project is for Twining School, but this image is of the Eielson site, the Carl Ben Eielson site. That is the site of the new construction. So at the end of the construction process, everybody from Twining School, all the students and staff, will move to a new building at this site. So you can see actually how close all of the base housing is, which is a little bit of a contrast to the situation with Twining, a little more isolated. This is our proposed site plan. So you can see here, well, first I should mention the orientation of this is north is on the left. The position of the building on the site is very similar to Eielson. The footprint is actually slightly smaller, actually quite a bit smaller. That's because this is primarily a two-story school. Twining right now is very much a kind of a sprawling one-story with maybe one exception. Here we're really leaning into the two-story space. So that leaves a lot of the site, which is large, that leaves it available for other functions. So you'll notice kind of at the right side of the building proper, we've got different playgrounds and ball fields. There's also a track depicted there. That's an ad alternate, and I know it's very small, but that is also the location of the geothermal well field. So that's another kind of unique aspect of this project. This is a net zero ready design. So net zero ready means that all of the systems are all electric. So there's no combustion that goes to heating a boiler or anything like that. All of the energy to run the building and its heating and cooling is coming from a geothermal system located underneath the football field there. So just really briefly looking here at the floor plan. We're talking about many months worth of design, so I'll try and go through it as quickly as I can. You'll notice I like to think of this as sort of in three parts. On the right side of the page, you'll see in mostly blues sort of these academic wings. Academic learning neighborhoods, very similar to the design you're familiar with at Discovery Elementary or the New Valley. In the center, there's sort of a spine. That orange block represents the administrative spaces, the main office. There's also some nice showcase opportunities along that spine. The green spaces there are CTE spaces, as well as where all of those geothermal heat pumps come into the building. So there's a good learning opportunity there. And then as we continue to the left of the plan, you'll notice right in the center, there's a cafeteria, kitchen and commons. And in the yellow, that's where you'll notice the activities, meaning there's a competition gymnasium, then also a smaller elementary gym, and then the green block of space you see kind of toward the bottom left of the page, that would be the music wing. Second floor space, you'll notice that, again, there's a great deal of program here that's stacked. We're really trying to maximize the amount of that two-story space, and you can see just how relatively little of that footprint is single-story only space, really just kind of the areas of the, at the kind of the far end of the activities wing. This is also the first floor plan, but now with all of the alternates shown. So add alternates are part of our overall risk strategy for the project. We have very good cost estimators that have very sophisticated model for doing the work they do, but there is still unknowns on bid day. So alternates are the way that we address that, or one of the ways we address that. On this page, there's 3 of them that are visible. There's 2 pair of what are called, or what we've referred to as flex classrooms. There's nothing different about the room necessarily, but just the program. We recognize that there are, at the Air Force Base, there are some larger like bubble classes that come in, including I think this year. Some of the classes are larger, so 2 sections may not be enough. So that's what that alternate is meant to address. There's also kind of on the very far right side, there's a couple of early childhood classrooms. And then sort of the bottom left, where I pointed out the elementary gymnasium, we've also got a stage to complete that as like an auditorium. On the second floor version of the same. We also showed to the School Board 140 some new images of the exterior as we've been thinking through not just the construction and the layout of these spaces, but the materiality and how that looks on the outside. So what you're seeing here is 2 main assemblies. One would be a precast concrete. That's what you're seeing as sort of the white bookends in this image. And then throughout the center, you're seeing a metal panel. Different colors that we've arranged in trying to bring a little more levity to this building elevation. It's important to the steering committee on a, yeah, thank you, Janelle. I was going to pass it around. It's very heavy. Yes. So the buildings on the Air Force Base are monotonous, perhaps. They are all built to a particular standard. That architectural standard, as far as like color, doesn't apply in our case because this is a local education agency. So we have some greater ability to bring a little levity to the exterior design. We showed this image. This is sort of swung around to the left toward the north of the building, and that activities and event entrance. So that we've got those 2 gymnasia there. However, you'll notice we've sort of brought down the scale, introduced some color, just by some strategic positioning of storage spaces. Now this is swinging all the way around to the other side of the building, toward the south in that academic wing. So here again, we're using that precast. We have some of the same colors consistent across the elevation, and those particular sort of box-like shapes that you're seeing there, that is a passive strategy. We did some study of those windows as far as like the amount of solar energy, light that gets into that space, and that is a way that we can both shade direct sunlight glare while still getting that daylight, which is so beneficial deeper into the space. So this is a slide that comes from our partners with the construction manager. So District 140 hired a construction manager, actually a partnership between McGough and construction engineers. This is one of their slides. They pointed out to the steering committee here that that first number that you see it's dated in May, that's when they basically first came on the project, right? We gave them the information we had at the time as it was developed. That was about 2 drawing sheets. By the time you get to that second number there, we were able to hand them the entire schematic design booklet of about 80 pages. So much greater confidence as far as, you know, what that number is that we're talking about for the construction estimate. They've also gone through and really enumerated all of the different construction alternates that I made reference to before. Key takeaways, maybe we'll come back to this in just a moment. So now we've got our overall project budget. I realize this is very small on the screen. We take that information, that latest and greatest information from the construction manager, we plug that in, and then we also account for the different soft costs. So if the construction costs are the hard costs of the project, there are other costs that we refer to as the soft costs. Most project budgets probably don't have 3 columns. That's Janelle described to you the different process or the different phases of the grant, first the design and then the build. So that's what is represented here. There's sort of the kind of the master column in orange on the left, and then splitting that apart into the first the design grant and then the build grant. And so this is sort of what that bottom line looks like for District 140 and how that match percentage breaks down and kind of how that's tracked over our different meetings that we've had with them. And then here's the timeline that Janelle referenced also. So we continue to add and iterate as there's more layers added to this. There's a lot of different parallel processes that we have to be mindful of, some which are largely independent, some of which affect other processes. So along the top is sort of that OLDCC funding process. In the green bar is that environmental assessment that was also mentioned. The blue is meant to represent our different design phases. So we've completed now schematic design and are into design development. One of those takeaways from the CM was bid packages and early procurement. So that's what you're seeing actually in that second from the bottom, those sort of purple squares. We will have our first bid package actually should be going out to bidders this week even. Relatively small bid package. Most of the bid packages will be for the structure shortly after the new year, and then most of the rest of the rest of the project after that. So, and then the very final bar is what you might expect to see out at the site. So the first thing that you'll see this season yet would be some construction fencing going up. A little more robust than your typical construction fence, being as it is the Air Force Base. And then once we get into the spring, see actually the building demolished, Carl Ben Eielson, the building demolished, the site prepared, and then construction get underway in the middle of summer. And as Janelle mentioned, about 22 months of construction is what the CM is planning. So that puts the project at 2027, summer of 2027 to wrap up, classes to begin in August of 27. So, stand for any questions.
Questions from board members? Dr. Lund?
I think more of a question for our administrative leaders here. I know we've got a couple of board members that are on committees. Other than being very strongly supportive and in favor of this project, what role does District 1 board have in this? I mean, do we have any approval process anywhere, or are we just very strong supporters?
I would say with our joint powers agreement, we're strong supporters. District 1 would be. Uniquely, moving forward, this building will be owned by District 140, whereas in the past, Twining is actually owned by District 1. So we're in a new era. The foundation aid, or excuse me, the impact aid formula that's been adjusted, that's going to really pave the way for our 20% local match. And I know you didn't ask this question, but since I have my mic turned on, I just wanted to add a couple of other comments. You know, when you see that price tag of $76 million, I think it raises eyebrows, you know, when you're talking about the square feet and when people compare that to our Valley Middle School project. There's about a 35% increase just due to lead silver being on a military installation, some of those made in America type products, some of the federal requirements that we have to follow. So 35% is a big leap. I do want to really thank Janelle Regenball. We have so many projects going on right now that it would be nearly impossible to keep all these balls juggling in the air and keeping them in the air and not hitting the ground. Janelle has been just an absolute lifesaver. There are times when we feel like we're pushing this boulder uphill, working with the federal government, but Janelle has a way of making that boulder go downhill, and sometimes it goes downhill very rapidly. So I just want to publicly thank Janelle for her work to really keep this project moving along. GLG has been a terrific partner. Andrew and his team have really moved this along. Sometimes that timeline feels like it has a bit of a slide one way or the other, but when we're still talking about opening this building in August of 2027, that's been the target all along, and that target hasn't moved. So just a reminder to everybody around the table and the people who are watching, not only do we have a Twining build going on, we have a Valley Middle School build going on, we have a Career Impact Academy structure going up, we have $18 million in safety and security. There are lots of projects that will be underway soon. We're already in the West Locker Bay of Red River High School doing that work. Child nutrition is out here. We still have a November 2024 readiness opening date. And then, of course, all of our HVAC projects across the school district really put us in position to have most of our classrooms with air conditioning, less the 6th grade wing at Schrader Middle School. And so when I say most of our classrooms, that means a new Twining and a new Valley Middle School. Then we will have all of our places with air conditioning. That's probably a little more than I plan on saying, but just the magnitude and the momentum that District 140 and District 1 have collectively together. It's a great time to be in both school districts. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Other questions? Amber?
Dr. Brenner, thank you for that. I just wanted to point out, too, that I think it gets lost that this is a K-8 school, and there's significantly more that goes into that, especially at the elementary level, and so I think folks need to be aware of that. Also, I think that the base has had a lot of changes over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and I think that this school will also help provide an exterior ability for those folks on the base to utilize the basketball courts and the park and when school is not in session. And so I think it gives a great aspect to that community. I have a couple questions. First is, I saw the Grand Sky community mentioned a couple times, and I was part of some of the initial conversations. But as that has evolved, can you talk about to the board what does the Grand Sky community have in relation to this project?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here too. So Grand Sky is obviously a developing partner and a component of the Air Force Base. It sits on the Air Force Base and therefore exists within the school district of 140. And so as long as the Grand Forks Air Force Base security forces comply, and they so far have only shown indications that you'd be able to support some of the family members who may be working on Grand Sky at Twining Middle School. And so that's the primary component here is readying the school to provide capacity for those families as well.
So if I heard you right, there's some location landlocked stuff going on that's important, but you had mentioned that we may be able to support some of those families. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll defer here too, but those families, a number of them choose to live where they'd like to. They don't live on Grand Sky. They may live in downtown Grand Forks, and so they're attending School District 1. We can accommodate I'm going to miss my language here.
In-district transfer.
Thank you. In-district transfer with those students are, if it's more convenient for those families to be attending Twining, with the new building, that's now a reality or an option.
Are those individuals military?
They are military in some senses. They have a lot of visitors from around friendly nations who are uniformed individuals from places like the United Kingdom, and in some cases there are private contractors working for companies such as General Atomics or Northrop Grumman.
So would that potentially I guess in full transparency, my concern would be, are we opening up and how wide of a net do we cast to, traditionally the base has been base families on or off, the students go there, and does that impact funding formula? Does that impact, how we?
Yeah, an important one. I would say that in the context of impact aid, there's a phrase that's used, it's military-connected students. And in this case, if the student is military-connected even on that private side of Grand Sky, and again, they have a reason to be on Grand Forks Air Force Base, then that's when they become eligible. It's not to be soliciting students from without the district or in other districts around the surrounding Grand Forks Air Force Base.
Dr. Brenner has some comments.
Yeah, and if I could just clarify, this school is being built for 500, and the 500 includes our military-dependent children who live in Grand Forks in District 1. Those are our priority students. If room would allow, and we have Grand Sky employees who want to in-district transfer their students to the base, then we would do it based on enrollment. But our priority is going to be our military-dependent kids.
So further that, can I ask where we're at with the Grand Sky tax dollars being provided to District 140? Because that certainly would be, if District 140 owns this building, that certainly would be a funding mechanism for them.
Yeah, that's right. And so just by way of update there, the school districts have been working in cooperation with Larimore School District and the county state's attorney to submit a joint request for an attorney general's opinion, as in seeking together clarity on the subject of where do these tax dollars go. And so we're just in the final phases, have not yet gotten a completed, all parties agreed to document to submit for that request, and that'll take some time too. So still yet to submit, but close.
Thank you. Couple more questions. Looking at the timeline, in terms of when we start building or who collects the funds, we have a building fund and a general fund. How do or when do the construction dollars get deposited? Where do they get deposited? How does all of that work?
Yeah, it's a very good question because there's some new layers to this one. When we have a grantor like the OLDCC, it's up to their program, and we're still learning that program. So as mentioned, there are 4 different phases, and they are up in the orange bar. There's a design proposal, and then there's the design and demo grant. So we were able to solicit or submit for that grant, and we got approval for that. That covers expenses associated with the design phase. And then what's reflected here is the first bid package, that fencing and CBE demo. Carl Benalson demo. So those have been all included with the design phase. But the next phase, and as Janelle spoke about, we submit this week, is that build proposal. And they'll give us some response before we actually get granted those dollars. We're just learning the exact process then, how we spend dollars and show those invoices, but it'll be a reimbursement type of process. And we're paying very close attention to the timing of that, to the crux of your question, because we need to make sure it's all there. As far as the 20% goes, we'd be really looking to leverage financing from District 140. So there's a couple different ways you could do that, but in concept, like this board is familiar, if you sell a bond on the day of sale, then those dollars come in. We use those dollars to address expenses, and then we seek reimbursement through the program.
I was going to ask about the 20%. So do we have to have that raised or a funding mechanism in place before anything else happens?
We need to have a commitment. District 140 needs to indicate a commitment of how this 20% will be secured or already secured by that point. So at the build proposal, we're indicating exactly where we intend to get those dollars, but they're not in the bank yet.
So District 1 could help be supportive of that, but just to be clear, so the public is not, we're paying tax dollars, District 1 is not supporting that extra 20%. Where do we envision that portion coming from?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So as mentioned, for quite some time now, impact aid comes to District 140, and that's primarily to offset the reality that there are no property taxes locally at District 140. There's also an agreement per the joint powers agreement between the two districts, where District 1 provides teachers, provides all the curriculum, provides everything you need to teach children, and District 140 will pay for that. In the funding formula for the state of North Dakota, that's a tuition transfer, and that gets deducted when that transfer is made between districts. In 2021, this administration, the Grand Forks School District number 1 went to the district alongside District 140 and said, this really should change. It really shouldn't be deducted in this case, and the legislature agreed with that. And they're working their way out of that. They didn't say we're going to stop it immediately. They said we're going to reduce it over 6 years until it's no more. And with that tuition transfer, there's more value that stays or is realized at District 1. So with that, there can be an adjustment to the rate of the tuition transfer, which is being discussed by the Joint Powers Committee. So it'll be up to that committee to see that, but I think that's where the opportunity exists to really pay for that debt service or finance that 20%.
I was only going to add that the good news is, based on that impact aid funding formula changing, there's, in District 140's checkbook, they have $6 million, and it'll likely be $7 million in not too far of a distant future. So there's money in the account, and with the impact aid formula, that's going to handle the 20%. You know, to the degree that we're talking about, can we do the alts or not? You know, how much do we really want to squeeze that? So we'll be thoughtful and careful about it, but District 140 is in really, really good shape.
I just have two very small questions. Twining demolition, is that included after everything gets moved and built, and then what happens to that building?
Currently, the cost of demolition is specific to Carl Ben Eielson only. We were able to put, you know, a decision together of which school did we want to put forth demolition, and obviously we need the demolition of Carl Ben first. So that made sense, and that has been approved, and in fact is a part of the design grant, which we've already had approved. So right now we're entertaining and can obviously look at the choice of, you know, do we want to request the demolition of Twining as well, even though we've been told that that would be very unlikely to be approved to have two schools. But we'll continue to monitor that in the coming months between now and when the build grant is proposed.
My last question is there an option built in for high school students that can't make it, either the weather's bad, Highway 2 shut down, that they can go to this school and take distance classes or access to internet? Is that an option?
I'll try to answer that. So as was mentioned, the school is designed for capacity of 500. And the enrollment out there today is significantly less than that. Also, as far as I mentioned, like the flex classrooms, without them, we're talking about like a 2-section school, at least at the elementary level. And then with them, that allows for like bubble classes. And then that could also accommodate, older students, high school age students, with like a distance learning setup.
Mm-hmm.
So okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions from board members? Jay?
So bid package 1 is just about done, ready to hit the street. District 140 will fund that. And then that money, the design grant money, is sitting in a bank account somewhere. So bid package 1 is financed with cash at hand to pay for it. Is that a correct summary?
That's right. The entirety of the design proposal so far has been that case, and that would be also for that first bid package.
Okay. And then follow up on a question about costs for Twining demo. We know it's not in the initial design proposal, but is that cost included in the future build while the build proposal getting submitted and then the build grant, or is that 100% a local cost?
I think we'd have to look at the current budget. We have a couple different scenarios for consideration this week. And the build proposal is kind of our first draft, if you want to look at it that way, whereas the build grant is the final, the final thing that gets approved. And so I know we asked for some new estimates of what it would cost for the Twining demolition so that we could consider if we want to put that forth, knowing we may be asked to pull it out. Because again, every indication is that they may not be willing to support a second one. They haven't ever done that before. But in all honesty, our strategy has been to ask for what we need and see what they will consider.
Or could we gift it to the base and they decide what they want to do with it?
Eric?
Well, goes through what's happened with Carl Ben Eielson. We own it, and we didn't mothball it, but we've put it in to where it doesn't cost us a ton of money to keep it up year to year, and that could be the potential answer to Twining once the move is made. Can you enlighten us on that?
No, I think that's exactly the option. I mean, so far the discussion has really been, as Janelle has articulated, is to see what we can ask the program for. But logically, this program is meant to replace an existing school, so they tear one down and they build one. So that's their thinking, is one-to-one. It could still continue to stand, but it's been our goal to try and take care of that issue sooner rather than later if it's a possibility.
Other questions? Bill?
I just want to say, in the meetings that I've sat in, we've had great support from the three legislators who have been in that, Dr. Sanford, I'm trying to think, Meyer, and Mr. Murphy, that are on there. And they also talked about possibility going to the legislator for some money to support military. So that's another option down the road if we get to that point. So, but they've been very good at a lot of great ideas that they've come forward with.
Other questions from board members?
I just want to echo Dr. Brenner's sentiment about Janelle. Being on the receiving end of all of the updates and emails, I mean, she doesn't miss a beat, and we're lucky to have you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Nothing? Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to item 4C, Storm Day Decision-Making Process. Dr. Brenner.
Thank you. This is routine with a little bit of new information regarding our storm day decision-making process. It's not only about storm days, but it can be about a heat index, and it can also be about air quality. That's our latest iteration of this. So you can see on the front page of the memo all the people who are part of this storm day team. This would be a text message thread group that we have, and we start activating our messaging to each other, sometimes 48 hours to 72 hours ahead of any scheduled event. So I just want you to know that that's how much planning goes into this. I do have one leading weather forecaster as my point of contact, and he and I visit frequently leading up to any decision-making timeline. You should also note that myself, UND, their leadership team, which includes President Armacost, the National Weather Service, Grand Forks County, City of Grand Forks Air Force Base leadership, we meet via Zoom. So I'll give you an example, a sample timeline. If we're expecting an event on a Friday, we start talking on Thursday, the day before, and we probably have our first Zoom meeting at 4 o'clock, and we don't make any decisions then. We usually have another meeting at about 9 to 10 that night, thinking we're going to make a decision. And sometimes we're afraid to make that decision because the band system is so narrow, it could slide one way or the other. So then we're up at 4:30 talking again. So we really try to use all the just-in-time information to make our decision. And again, the National Weather Service is front and center. Along with that, I would just flip to the second page. Once I have information from those Zoom meetings, then I pipe back into our district storm team to let them know what other entities are thinking. And we really do try to make a unilateral and consistent decision between city, base, UND, and school district. And I think you've seen more and more of that the last 2 to 3 years. So the timing of the decisions, you know, before I get to the timing, let me just add that there are some other factors that go into a decision. Let's just say it is a Friday or it is a Monday. Sometimes those are highly used personal day leaves by our staff. And if we already know we're going to be down 20% of staff, and we know that 17 or 18% of our people commute from out of town, we could have a staffing shortage if the weather is iffy, particularly between Crookston, Thompson, north on 29 and west on Highway 2. So sometimes those factor in. So while it might seem pretty darn nice in town, there are reasons why we sometimes make decisions that don't make sense to the general public. So the timing of the decisions, if there's 100% confidence following all of the meetings leading up to these decisions, we'd like to make those decisions the night before to help all of our parents out. And I do give somebody like All True Health System a courtesy text message that we're going to have a 2-hour delay or there's not going to be school because there's a staffing shortage for them as well. So we start with the possibility of a 2-hour delayed start. And then we wake up, and I get on the road, see how it is, and again, with input from National Weather Service and a few other folks, decide if we should continue with a 2-hour delay start or if we should cancel altogether. And sometimes then we have to cancel altogether. Those are the hard ones, when we have a 2-hour delay and then we move to cancellation. I have run into people at the grocery store, parents at the grocery store, in particular, single parents at the grocery store who say a 2-hour late start is more difficult than canceling altogether. I've heard that over and over again. So I certainly take that into consideration as well. So that would be on the storm side of things. Heat index, we're getting ever so close to my earlier comments about air conditioning in all of our classrooms, but we still have, you know, Valley is Valley and Twining is Twining, and the 6th grade wing at Schrader can still be warm as well. So principals let us know when that heat index reaches a certain temperature at those buildings, and there is a possibility, we've done it before, where we've had an early dismissal, where those decisions are a little more surgical. We might let Twining and Valley out, but the rest of our folks stay in session. But when we move to those decisions now, those would be considered remote learning days, unless we're getting out at 2 o'clock, for example, in the afternoon, then we likely wouldn't. This week is a warm week, so we're paying attention to what's happening at classrooms at both Valley and Twining. The last piece is about air quality and the smoke. Mike Biermeyer really has this on his radar for outside activities, outside athletics, and he uses CDC air quality guidelines to help guide decisions relative to practice that's outside competitions. He works with other ADs from other school districts to make a determination whether events should move forward or not. This would be the same for recess, for elementary. It would be the same for our middle and high school kids going outside for PE or outside for, you know, a nice weather break. So you can see that that's what we use for those decision-making processes as well. So with that, I would certainly stand for questions or feedback, or have you thought of this?
Any questions from board members? Bill?
Yeah, does the North Dakota High School Activities Association have any guidelines, or do they just leave it up to local?
They have left it up to us, yes.
Other questions? Jay?
72 hours is really proactive. It's still 12 hours after my kid first asked if school will be canceled. So we're not going to avoid that. I see the principals at Central are listed, but not the Red River.
That's because of the Air Force Base. The kids bus in from the base.
Thanks.
Other questions? Amber?
I lost my train of thought. I wonder if, I don't see, I just want to make sure. I don't see like Valley Bus or a person involved. I just wonder if they're like, are they on the Zoom, or, because I think certainly that helps. That's probably impactful of our 2-hour start delay with a lot of those.
Allie Hillebrand, our transportation coordinator, is on our text thread. Her name isn't on here. So she would pipe in Valley.
And is that a pipe in, or is that what information do we need to know from them as far as employees getting there, because that would be a piece of the puzzle, I suppose.
Yeah, sometimes Valley Bus will let us know that 2 drivers aren't going to make it, if they're commuting from out of town. So we'll know that we're going to be down a couple of routes, and then we push out a message to parents saying, Route 1 and Route 3 are going to be 45 minutes late today.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it would be helpful to put them on here, like as part of the planning team? I guess that's what I'm getting at, is like, it seems like more of just like, oh, someone doesn't show up, but is it like, where are things at with?
Yeah, I mean, they're here without being on the list.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They're involved. Got it.
Other questions from board members, comments? Jay?
A comment, whatever it is you guys are all doing, it's working. We're never in doubt as to what the status of our kids' activity is, whether it's going to school or their activities. So keep up the good work, everybody.
Thank you. Others? If none, moving on. Moving on to item 5, superintendent's recommendations for action. 5A is the consent agenda. Motion for approval by Eric, second by Jay. We will take a roll call vote.
Lund?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Berger is absent. Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson absent. Hodak?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion passes. 5B, authorization for sale of building trades project house. Brandon.
Yeah, Vice President Anderson, members of the board, this is bringing forward a letter you might recognize if you've been on the board before. Each and every year, the buildings trades curriculum builds a house and then it's sold in that year. This is the prior approval we seek early on, because sometimes we get interested buyers before the house is even finished. So this relates to the newest house, which is a hole in the ground currently located at 3975 Diamond Drive, and they'll take the course of the year to complete the building itself, and the sale would be expected in springtime. With the Career Impact Academy coming up, we're really hoping to close this out and could consider other options, even aside from building on-site, but rather building on stilts outside of the Career Impact Academy and selling it that way, which gets moved to an owner parcel, if that makes sense. So what this is really the motion here is not only asking for that permission to sell, but authorizing myself to sign and go through all the required closing documents when it comes that time. The motion is actually written out in your board memo. Happy to answer any questions about this too.
Any questions for Brandon? Amber?
Will this be the same process for finding a listing agent?
Yeah, that's the administrative thought right now is last time, we've done this a number of different ways, but last time was essentially a bid process where we solicited responses from realtors in the community and then made a selection process. So I thought that worked well.
Any further questions for Brandon? If not, I would seek a motion. Would you move the motion as written? Okay. Is there a second? Jeff, second. Motion by Bill, second by Jeff. We will take a roll call vote.
Hodak?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Flynn?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Berger is absent. Palmasino?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion passes. Moving on, 5C, consideration of material and labor quotes for fire panel associated with the central kitchen project. Back to Brandon.
Yes, thank you. So just want to highlight the need here as the central kitchen relocates out here to Mark Sanford. It's going to be tied in with this building in a lot of its systems, including the single fire panel that's on site here. That fire panel is really not up to date where it could be. Replacement parts are harder to get by, and then obviously with any new product, there's greater assurances for safety. As this new kitchen comes on, it feels like now is the right time to update that panel. This is coming to you here at the board outside of really the contract for that project. It's what's kind of separating it out. You might recall that anything less than $50,000 in change orders could be approved administratively and then even go to Finance Committee, not come to the board. The reason why this is coming to the board is because this is outside of the child nutrition contract, and so it's not a change order. This is really a standalone agreement. The reason for that is in working with the construction manager, we agreed that's the best path, and it's a little bit more affordable because we're gonna miss a few of the percentage costs from the guaranteed maximum pricing or the construction manager at risk construct. So this is coming forward for your consideration in that way. It would replace that panel with a Simplex 4007 E6 or ES, excuse me. I'm completely outside my element here is describing fire panels, but I tried for it anyway. But what you have here is with our building and grounds director, Jonathan Elwine, got a quote for both the materials, the actual fire panel, and then the installation quote from Century Electric for your consideration.
Any questions for Brandon?
I'll second it since my microphone thingy's on. What's the total cost? Maybe it's right in front of my face, but I
Yeah,
can't.
about $25,000.
So motion is made by Eric and seconded by Jay. We will then take a roll call vote.
Flynn,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Berger is absent, Manley,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Palmasino,
Yes.
Larson is absent, Anderson,
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion passes. Moving on, 5D, 2024 Renaissance Zone Plan Update Process Letter of Support, Dr. Brenner.
I will go ahead and take this. It looks like we've got a city official with us tonight. He can probably respond to any questions if there are any, but you can see on my memo that there's communication from Haley Grasser, planner of the city of Grand Forks. Her request is for the school board and district support for the Renaissance Zone follows a similar request that was made in 2016 and 2021. Ms. Grasser has outlined the summary of changes in her communications, which I'll draw to your attention on the next page. And as per her request, I provided a letter of support and would ask the school board to officially act upon it, as this information will be in front of the Grand Forks City Council on September 16th, 2024. The administrative recommendation is to approve the letter of support for the 2024 Renaissance Zone Plan Update process. So, sir, I didn't know if you had anything to add or not. Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Jay? Eric.
Just a comment, and I'm fully supportive of this. Again, I don't think we should be involved in this, but because it was screw up in a different town a long time ago, this legislature changed the laws, and we have to do this. My only complaint is it comes to us on whatever today is, September 9th, 10th, and it's got to be done today. If there were controversies or issues about this, we don't have enough lead up into this, and I really would appreciate it if it would come earlier in case, because there was a couple years ago, we had some controversy about a couple of these, so I just would appreciate it, but I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you. Jay?
The 30-year renewal, is that North Dakota Century Code statutory and we're just copying it, or we think 30 years is good for Grand Forks, so we're adding it?
So that is a state, all the changes outlined in the memo provided are state changes. Our proposal is just to match basically those state policy changes. So it's statewide.
We could, in theory, not adopt state minimum requirements and make them more stringent for our community?
We could. Yep, that is an option. I'll also just point out that, we come back each time, to your point, for plan updates and that sort of thing. That's not to say that that's the only time we can make updates too. So if we decide to make the changes now and decide, in, I guess, 10 years from now, which is when the first one would qualify, that it's not for us or not working, we can certainly come back at any time between now and then to make changes in the plan. But yeah, our zone wasn't established until 2001, so we still got a decent amount of time yet before any are potentially eligible for that.
Thank you.
Other questions? If not, I would seek a motion for approval. Amber makes that motion. Is there a second? Jay with the second. We'll take a roll call vote.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Flynn?
Yes.
Berger is absent. Hodak?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Klevin?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion passes. 5E, consideration of resolution providing for the sale of general obligation building fund bonds, Series 2024. Brandon.
Yes, thank you. Just in the cover memo here, the first paragraph is what you've seen before. It's meant to put in context some of the recent bonding activity. It's always been a part of the plan to bond for the referendum result. And then also, it points out the $3.8 million associated with some of the HVAC upgrades. And then lastly, the $6.5 million associated with the Career Impact Academy. As a reminder, the 49 plus the 3.8 has already been in process and approved and actually will close on those bond sales on Thursday. The 6.5 was the one that we needed a 60-day waiting period, and so that's why it's coming a little bit later. So just wanted to remind you, we've talked a lot about the content of this. It's now just the timing of things. So what's in front of you here is a resolution which authorizes the sale of the building fund bonds, 6.5 for the Career Impact Academy. So those will be paid from the building fund over the next 20 years. We're in that 60-day protest period, which will wrap up on October 6th. And so this paperwork is just really getting in line for the sale of the bonds October 14th. One technicality on the 14th, since sending that memo, our bond counsel had informed me that because it is Indigenous Peoples Day, they don't do bond sales. So what you can expect to see that day is a parameter resolution that basically says that allows the authority in me, or you provide the authority to me, to close on the bond sale the very next day under these parameters, as in if we get bids within this range. And I'll look to our bond counsel to inform us of those. So it won't be accepting the actual bid results like we did last time. That'll happen the very next morning, October 15th. So with that, the administrative recommendation is to approve this resolution providing for the sale of general obligation building fund bonds, Series 2024.
Questions for Brandon? Jay?
Just to recap previous discussions on the finance, the building fund cash flows this, if you will. There's no, I'm just recapturing what we talked about earlier, which did include the $6.5 million for the CIA bond, correct?
Correct. All iterations of that conversation, both at Finance Committee and at the board, have always included the 6.5 because that was what this group had always talked about.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I would seek a motion.
Motion to approve.
Jeff with motion to approve. Is there a second? Bill seconds. We'll take a roll call vote.
Berger is absent. Flynn?
Yes.
Klevin?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Lund?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion carries. 5F, consideration of resolution providing for participation in school bond credit enhancement program. Brandon.
Thank you. This one, you'll probably get or notice that there's a bit of a theme behind these bonds is that we participate in this program. Century Code establishes a credit enhancement program at the state level where we get the to apply for the full faith and financial backing of the state of North Dakota. And what this does for our bids then is it gives the confidence to our bidders to know that they're going to get paid, that even if this district for some reason would miss a payment, the state would step in and ensure that payment. So that gives them confidence to be a little bit more competitive, generally gives us some better results. So we make a habit of participating in this program. For this reason, for the just previously discussed $6.5 million bond sale, we anticipate administrative recommendations to approve this resolution so we could participate in the credit enhancement program.
Questions for Brandon? Jay?
So this seems like kind of a proverbial no-brainer. So just a couple mechanical questions, if you will. We participate in this, the money gets dispersed from the state to whatever entities receiving the money and then we reimburse the state? Or does it come directly from GFPS to the recipient of the money?
So we keep them out of the equation altogether unless we have a bad day. So if we don't cover our debt service payment some years down the road, we pay debt service on a bond twice a year, once in August, once in February. If for some reason we're at risk of not making that payment, what this does is it already provides the backing of the state of North Dakota. So the lender would go to the state for that payment, and it's only at that time they get involved. And what happens then is the state would withhold some state aid formula to make sure that they get repaid for that. But it's the confidence it's confidence to the lender that the state will cover it, even if for some reason the district could not.
Other questions? Seeing none, I would seek a motion. Bill moves approval. Is there a second? Jay, second. We will take a roll call vote.
Clevin?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Palmasino?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Manley? Flynn?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Berger is absent. Anderson?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 6, other 6A is announcements. Any announcements? Dr. Brenner?
I just have one, just a reminder, Wednesday at 6 p.m. we'll have our special school board meeting with our demographer, and we'll have a bit of a work session, so please plan on 60 to 90 minutes, according to Rob Schwartz. And in advance, thank you for 2 meetings this week. Thank you.
Other announcements? Catherine, Matt, GFPA? Seeing none. 6B, board requests for future consideration. Again, seeing none. I will go to item number 7, executive session. At this time, I would ask for a motion to hold an executive session pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 44-04-19.1, 2, 5, and 44-04-19.2 to receive the school district attorney's advice regarding and anticipation of reasonably predictable civil litigation.
So moved.
Motion by Jay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jeff. We'll now move from the room, and we anticipate re-adjourning from executive session, or reconvening from executive session into open portion of the meeting at approximately 8:36. At that time, we will just close out the meeting. Oh, sorry, roll call vote, please.
Larson is absent. Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Berger is absent. Clevin?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Motion passes. We will meet in Dr. Brenner's office.